A 23-year-old Ukrainian woman was brutally stabbed to death inside a train in Charlotte, North Carolina, by a repeat offender who should have been behind bars. The attacker, Carlos Brown Jr., 34 years old, had been arrested 14 times previously and was free on the streets due to a judicial decision. The crime, captured entirely by security cameras, exposed shocking flaws in the American justice system and generated international outrage. The victim, a war refugee who worked at a pizzeria to achieve the American dream, was attacked without any provocation by a man authorities had known to be dangerous for years. But what will truly shock you isn't just the brutality of the crime. It's discovering how many times this killer could have been prevented from being on the streets, and the absurd reactions of authorities after the incident. Why was a criminal with such a record free? What happened in the final minutes of this young woman's life? And what was the reaction of other passengers during the attack? Prepare yourself for a story that will make you question everything about how our society deals with dangerous criminals. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now to not miss our daily content on cases that mark our society. Iryna Zarutska, the protagonist of this tragedy, was a 23-year-old Ukrainian woman who had found hope in the United States to rebuild her life far from the horrors of war. Born in Kyiv on May 22, 2002, she had grown up in a loving and united family, being the daughter of Anna and Stanislav, as well as sister to Valeria and Bogdan. From an early age, she demonstrated exceptional artistic talent that led her to graduate in art and restoration from the prestigious Synergy College in Kiev. She transformed her creativity into unique gifts for family and friends through detailed sculptures and exclusive clothing she created with her own hands, each piece reflecting her eclectic and innovative personality. Her unconditional love for animals was another striking facet of her generous personality. During her free time, she frequently offered to care for neighborhood pets, becoming a known and beloved figure in the streets of her area. Neighbors reported seeing her walking with various animals, always displaying a radiant smile and treating each little creature with maternal tenderness. This love for animals wasn't just a hobby, but fueled a solid professional dream of pursuing a veterinary career. Simultaneously, she sought to achieve complete financial independence and was learning to drive, another step toward total autonomy. When the Zarutska family arrived in the United States in August 2022, Iryna, accompanied by her mother and two brothers, she demonstrated a truly impressive capacity for adaptation. They had left behind not only their established lives, but primarily the anti-aircraft shelters where they lived in Ukraine, constantly escaping the bombardments that devastated their homeland. The search for a safe and prosperous life brought them to America, where Iryna completely embraced the concept of the American dream, determined to prosper in this new land. Her work ethic was admirable. As soon as she obtained her legal work authorization, she immediately immersed herself in the American work market. Her jobs were varied, but always executed with dedication. She cared for elderly people in a specialized center where her patience and tenderness were particularly valued, worked at a local pizzeria to supplement her income, and continued her favorite activity of caring for neighborhood animals, now on American soil. Recently, she had taken another important step in her new life by moving in with her boyfriend, Stas Nikolitsa, further strengthening her ties with the local community. Her dedication to studies was also remarkable. She had enrolled in a community college specifically to further perfect her mastery of English, a language she had managed to learn fluently in record time, a feat that impressed everyone around her and demonstrated her unwavering determination. She was a young woman who sincerely believed in the bright future she could build in this new land of opportunities. Despite all her ambition and determination, Iryna maintained a balanced personality that blended different aspects of her individuality. Her homely and loving nature contrasted harmoniously with her love of adventures and tourist excursions in the company of friends, always eager to explore the new places her adopted country offered. Her mother, Anna, remembered with tenderness and nostalgia a particular characteristic of her daughter, her almost supernatural ability to sleep for long periods, something Iryna herself used to jokingly call her artist's gift. She was a person who found authentic happiness both in great discoveries and adventures, as well as in simple moments of family comfort, demonstrating admirable emotional maturity for her age. The nightmare began on the evening of August 22, 2025, at the East-West Boulevard station on the Blue Line of Charlotte's Public Transportation, North Carolina. It was approximately 10 o'clock at night when she boarded the train to return from work at the pizzeria, still wearing her uniform, long pants, black t-shirt, and cap with the establishment's logo. Security cameras captured the entire tragic sequence that followed. She entered the car and sat normally, putting on her headphones and handling her cell phone, completely unaware of the danger approaching. Behind her was already seated a man in an orange-red sweatshirt who would be responsible for brutally interrupting her young life. The attacker, Carlos Brown Jr., 34 years old, initially remained motionless with his head leaning against the window, resembling an ordinary passenger. There was nothing in his initial behavior that indicated the sinister intentions he carried. Other passengers were also present in the car, as well as police officers aboard the train, but in a car ahead. During the first few minutes of the trip, nothing seemed abnormal. She continued distracted with her cell phone, while the man remained apparently inert in his seat. However, about 1 minute before the attack, something changed drastically in his behavior. He began searching for something in his pocket and stood up from his seat. Only 4 minutes after she had boarded that train, the unthinkable happened. The man drew a knife from inside his sweatshirt, approached from behind, and attacked her neck with 3 fatal blows. The violence of the action contrasted shockingly with the normalcy of the preceding moments. The images show that after the attack, the aggressor walked slowly toward the front of the train while she still showed signs of life, looking terrified at her executioner before falling without being able to resist the wounds. A passenger ran to warn the train operator about what had happened so the train could be stopped, but help arrived too late. The most revolting aspect of the images is the reaction of other passengers. People who were seated near the victim simply ignored the situation, some of them even getting up to leave the car, demonstrating shocking selfishness in the face of a life that was fading before their eyes. 2 minutes and 5 seconds after the crime, when the train stopped at the next station, the criminal got off normally and was arrested by police still on the platform. He offered no resistance, demonstrating the calculated coldness with which he had committed the murder. What makes this case even more revolting is the extensive criminal history of the attacker. Carlos Brown Jr., a homeless man, rejected even by his own family, had been arrested 14 times over the years, with criminal records dating back to 2007, when he was still a minor. His criminal record included crimes of aggravated theft, armed robbery, and communication of threats. In 2014, he was convicted of armed assault and served 5 years in prison, being released in September 2020. He quickly resumed his criminal activities, demonstrating a complete lack of rehabilitation. In the months following his release, crimes followed one after another. Assault on his own sister in February 2021, property damage and invasion in the same period, domestic disturbance in July 2022, and misuse of emergency services in January 2023, when he claimed he had artificial material in his body controlling his actions. The most critical point of the story is the judicial decision that allowed him to remain free on the streets. In January 2025, just 7 months before the murder, Judge Teresa Stoke released him without bail, requiring only that he write a promise to appear at the next hearing. Despite his extensive criminal record and having no fixed address, representing a flight risk, the magistrate trusted the word of a promise, a repeat criminal.
The attacker's mother had sought involuntary psychiatric hospitalization for him after violent episodes at home. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2014 and remained under psychiatric surveillance for 2 weeks, but was released afterward. His own mother admitted that the judicial system had failed the community by allowing him to walk freely on the streets. The repercussion of the case was immediate and intense. President Donald Trump harshly criticized the decision to keep the criminal free, highlighting that he was a well-known professional criminal who had been arrested and released 14 times. Various politicians and public figures expressed outrage at the situation. The mayor of Charlotte, a Democratic Party representative, caused even more revolt by asking for compassion for the criminal, comparing mental health problems to diseases like cancer and heart problems. Her comments were widely criticized for seeming to diminish the assassin's responsibility and completely ignore the victim and her family. Absurd situations followed the crime. Crowdfunding pages were created to raise money for the killer's legal costs, claiming he was as much a victim as the deceased young woman. These pages stated he had been neglected by the system and was not totally guilty of what had happened. Fortunately, these pages were removed after public outrage, but they demonstrate how certain segments of society distort reality to defend criminals. The victim's family, already traumatized by the unexpected loss, faced the painful decision about the funeral. The Ukrainian embassy offered to repatriate the body to Ukraine, but the family refused, saying she loved America and should be buried in the United States, the country where she dreamed of building her future. The case took on federal dimensions when the Department of Justice took over the investigations. Attorney General Pamela Bondi announced she would federally prosecute the criminal, seeking the maximum penalty for this unforgivable act of violence. She guaranteed he would never see daylight again as a free man. The FBI director also spoke out, calling the attack a shameful act that should never happen in the United States, and promised the perpetrator would never again be released from prison to kill. Now, with federal charges, no judge will be able to attempt to free this man again, and he could receive life imprisonment or even capital punishment. This case brutally exposes the flaws of a system that prioritizes the rights of repeat criminals over the safety of innocent citizens. How many other criminals like this are free on the streets right now, just waiting for the opportunity to commit their next crimes? The question that remains is disturbing, and the answer, unfortunately, is that we'll probably only find out when it's too late. The tragedy also revealed structural problems in public transportation, where the criminal hadn't even paid for a ticket but managed to access the train without any control. The absence of adequate security in the cars and the apathetic reaction of other passengers to the crime show a society that seems to have lost its capacity to be outraged and act in the face of injustice. What shocks most about this story is knowing it could have been completely avoided. A talented young woman who had escaped the horrors of war in search of peace and opportunities had her life cut short by someone who should have been behind bars for years. Her death wasn't just an individual crime, but the result of a series of wrong decisions by the justice system that repeatedly prioritized the freedom of a dangerous criminal over society's safety. This case serves as a warning about the dangers of lenient policies with repeat criminals and the urgent need to reform systems that systematically fail to protect honest citizens. As long as dangerous criminals remain free on the streets, more tragedies like this will continue to happen, destroying innocent lives and entire families. The memory of this young Ukrainian artist should serve not only to mourn her premature loss, but to demand real changes in our justice systems. Her death cannot have been in vain if we manage to prevent other families from going through the same devastating pain hers is facing. If this content has impacted you as much as it impacted me while researching and writing about this case, leave your comment, subscribe to the channel, and suggest other cases you'd like to see covered. It's through your engagement that we manage to bring these important topics to more people and, who knows, contribute to our society awakening to the need for urgent changes in our public security systems.